Hi, this is Guy Sharvit with SigmaMax, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to configure port authentication using 802.1x or Radius for the C-300 series switch. Now, in the previous video, I showed you how to configure the Radius server. If you did not watch that video, you should stop now, go back to seeing that because I'm going to use that existing configuration. And what I'm going to do now is go here in Security, Port Authentication. I'm going to enable it globally. And then on a per interface basis, I can decide if we want to use 802.1x authentication or not. Now, what is 802.1x authentication? 802.1x means that if I have a device connected to this port, it will not allow, the switch will not allow the device network access unless and until the device or the user in the device is authenticated to the 802.1x Radius server, which can then use Active Directory in the back end to authenticate the user. Now, we are going to, currently the device that I'm connected to is on port 8. I'm going to go to port 7 and enable port authentication there. Now, what does enable mean? We have three options for control mode. Force authorized means that the port is always authorized, always allows access. Force unauthorized means it always doesn't, and automatic means that it's going to use the authentication, the 802.1x authentication. So we're going to do that. We can also configure if it's a single host, multi-host, or MAC-based. Single host means that each port can only allow only has one device on it, meaning that device connects, needs to authenticate, and then only that device can use that port. Multi-host means that that port might have a hub or a switch with multiple devices behind it, or maybe a phone with a computer behind it. And once one authenticates, that port is enabled for access to any number of hosts. And MAC-based, of course, means that the authentication is going to be per MAC, which means you might have multiple hosts that each one has to authenticate separately. We're going to do single host. In this case, I'm not going to change any of the default timeouts or timers. You can read about them in the user guide. And we can also decide, in case of non-authentication, if we block the traffic, which is the default, or if we place the user on a guest VLAN. So a typical deployment in an enterprise environment might be authentication is required. Authentication might determine the user's VLAN. We're not going to do that in this video, but maybe in a future video I will show you dynamic VLANs and how each user per authentication can be placed on a different corporate VLAN. And then non-authenticated users might be placed on a guest VLAN. But in this case, we will block them, and I am going to apply. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, here's my computer, I can ping a server on my network. I'm going to move to port 7, and we're going to see here. Now, my Windows computer is saying identifying, but it's not connecting. The switch is not allowing it because I've not configured my computer to do 802.1x authentication. So I'm going to do that now. There are many options in 802.1x for authentication. We could, I'll show you the simple one I'm going to configure here for Windows, but this is, this part of the configuration is between the Radius server and the Radius client on my machine, and the switch itself does not care or does not change this type. So first I'm going to enable 802.1x, and I'm going to configure PEEP, which is a default Microsoft protocol, but there are other ones that Windows gets support. But again, this configuration would be, needs to be compatible between the Radius server and the device here. The switch does not care. And I am going to use Microsoft's default MS Chat version 2 for the password. I'm not going to verify the server because I've not got certificates on the server. I'm not going to use my the default Windows user and password, but in most cases, that is what we done. In this case, what I am going to do is say that I want to do a user authentication, not a computer, and I'm going to provide it the user and password that's in this Radius server. And then I will, we can already see that we have connected to the network. Windows can take it a little bit of time to classify this network because I'm using the Wi-Fi for this webinar. But we can see that now I was granted access. And if I go back to the switch here and look at this interface, right, we're going to see that the current state is authenticated. If we had, and also the MAC address of the supplicant, this is relevant, of course, if we had done MAC-based, and so there could be multiple devices in different states. Anyway, that is how we configure C-300 to switch for port authentication. Thank you.